Joe Klanderman, I want to welcome you to the Matt Mosley Show. We've been very excited to get to visit with you. Welcome to town, sir.
Hey, thank you. I'm happy to be here. I do enjoy a good chicken fried steak. You are correct in that. Spent an evening at Terry Black's the other night. No chicken fried steak, but there was, I think they were elephant thighs. I'm not sure what they were, but they were fantastic.
Boy, that is pretty good barbecue over there. And we'll tell you about some of the other barbecue in town. And there's places that put the homemade sausage. Yeah, there's the famous VTEX. But today we do our show from the Brazos Landing. And so I won't try to eat in front of you, Coach, because they keep bringing food to us over here. Have they given you plenty of Baylor apparel? I saw they had a golf shirt you were in for your opening news conference and everything. Did they load you up, or are you? Hopefully you don't have to go over to the bookstore or anything.
I'm loaded up. Yeah, no. Me and my family, they were gracious enough. They brought my family down. I've got 4 kids. So we did drop about $1,000 at Dick's and Academy the other day on some Baylor apparel. Didn't have the heart to say no to them. So not for me though. I got my own. I'm good to go.
Okay. What was that like the other day, a couple of weeks ago? I bet it's been a whirlwind since Coach Kleiman, who you're obviously extremely close to. Did he tip you off a little bit? Did you kind of sense that something was coming? Because for the rest of America, everybody was very, very surprised. And I'm sure there were some people on the staff that were surprised as well. How did you process all that?
Shocked. And I'll tell you kind of how it went down. I don't know if this is a story that I should be sharing or not, but so no idea. Coach Kleiman is a really, really big people person. And, he's, I don't want to use the word pleaser, but it matters to him what people think, and it matters to him that people have his back and stuff. And, it was a trying year for us there. We're not used to, losing 6 games. And so he internalizes a lot of that, and as any leader should, and just takes it himself and wears it. And I kind of have some of those tendencies too. So I know exactly what he was feeling like, but you could tell it was wearing on him a little bit, just how he carried himself day to day. And, but anyway, we were talking about the future on Monday. We were talking about recruiting. We were talking about next season. We were talking about spring, and so I had no idea. And then Wednesday, the way they did it at K-State was they had a little signing day Zoom with all the signees, and, parents are on there, and Coach Kleiman gave a speech about, looking forward to takes a village, and, all things that you would say. And then that group got done. And then there was another 8:00 group because we had some Mountain Time signees, Denver and whatever. And then we went to our offices, and there was about 3 or 4 guys hanging out in my office. And somebody came in and showed me I guess it was a newspaper heading. I don't know how you term it, but it said Kleiman to resign, Klein to take his place. And today I thought it was AI. I thought it was garbage. And for starters, I know how university systems work, and there's so much red tape. There's no way in hell that you could get somebody hired, instantly. So, I dismissed it, and I had my phone sitting on my desk, and I won't say the names, but all of a sudden my phone started bzz, bzz, and it was a member of the national media. And I didn't really think much about it. I ignored the call because I had some other guys in my office, and then bzz, bzz, it was another member of the national media that I know. And again, I ignored the call, and then bzz, bzz, a third member of the national media, and I'm starting to think might be a little fire where this smoke is. And so just like that, amazing, and amazing how a life can change in a week or a week and a half. But I think it worked out well for me.
Yeah, and Colin Klein, and having served on a staff with him, and he leaves to go to A&M, that had to be interesting for all of you coaches, because there's a familiarity with a guy coming in, but you don't know exactly what he wants to do. How did you kind of balance that with probably needing to get in touch with him pretty quickly, but also knowing you needed to keep your options open. At that point, I guess, do you get a hold of your agent or whoever you use and just kind of start trying to play all the options out?
Well, Colin and I were in touch a little bit, and I know he had some interest in keeping me on the staff, um, but yeah, there was some uncertainty there. And then, I'm not the kind of guy that goes looking for other things. Really, um, that's not my jam. When I got the job for starter, I would be a Division II guy still. I'd be hanging out there for life. I didn't have a resume even when Coach Kleiman called me for the first time. So, um, so normally I would shut down a lot of things, if they came to me. And this year, this cycle, I was a little more open to listening. And when the Baylor opportunity came around, I gave it some thought, and I thought maybe this is something that I really need to look at. And just because of the opportunity that's here. And so, regardless of what was going on, I was fired up to come down to Waco.
All right. And did you call anybody like, hey, tell me about Dave or any, obviously y'all didn't have a lot of history. You've played against each other. You probably had
Right.
respect from him from that standpoint. Who did you reach out to perhaps try to get maybe a better idea of what Dave was like and what he might be like to work for?
He has a reputation of being a great person. Started there, but I leaned heavily on Coach Kleiman. I think that even though those guys are competitors on the field, I think off the field, a lot of the Big 12 head coaches are a pretty close knit group. Probably not to a man, but I think a lot of them are pretty well connected because they have the same struggles and the same challenges at a lot of these universities. So I leaned on him pretty heavily and he thought Dave was a good man, and Matt Wells was on our staff there, and Matt and Dave have a long history of working together and knowing each other and are good friends, and so those two guys were probably the point men for me.
All right, and then you're known for, y'all's takeaways have been huge, even in what was kind of a down year for you, as you mentioned. You still were one of the country's tops in taking the ball away and turnover margin. Baylor struggled mightily in that this year, one of the worst in the country in turnover margin. What do you attribute that to? Because that's not just like, oh, they had one great year. I think that kind of goes back even starting in maybe about 2022. Y'all have been on a pretty big run. Is that just huge emphasis in that area? What's the biggest reason that y'all have stood out in that area?
Yeah, good question. It's not luck of the draw. I really believe that. I used to think, it's luck of the draw, and we're getting them. And when we didn't get them, I thought, it's luck of the draw. It's not. You got to preach it, and you've got to emphasize it. Players have to understand how important that stuff is. And it has to be on the forefront of their minds, punching at the football, attacking the football. That's part of it. The other part of it is your scheme has to kind of allow for it too. And I don't want to get too football nerdy here or whatever, but I think that there's a couple schools of thought on how you do things, particularly in the pass game. And you can match patterns, and you can do those things, and you can play a lot of man coverage, and your completion percentage stuff is going to be much lower. And just finding places to throw the ball is going to be harder for a quarterback. But you're probably not going to get a lot of interceptions that way because you don't have a lot of vision on the ball being thrown. You don't have a lot of vision on the quarterback. You can't really get a couple steps in the ground before the ball's thrown. You're not going to get a lot of those tip passes because you just don't see the ball being thrown because you're looking at your man or you're looking at the pattern and you're matching it. We do some of that. I think you have to do that. But I also am a pretty big believer in guys playing with quarterback vision and guys having a little bit more vision on the play and on the ball. And as such, we're coming down with a lot of those tip balls. We're coming down with a lot of those throws. We're getting 3 steps in the ground before the ball's thrown and getting into some throwing lanes that maybe a quarterback doesn't see us in. So philosophically, I think that matches too. And then, the other component to that is having a disruptive front, letting your guys up front hunt and rush and play. And, we've done that a couple different ways for a number of years at K-State. We were 3 down front. You're not going to generate a lot of pressure with 3, but we blitzed a lot, and we blitzed a lot with, visual things behind, so we could get, all the aforementioned things, but you were creating pressure on the quarterback. You were rushing him, you were speeding him up. And then last year, where we were more of a 4 down front, we were doing it with 4 guys that could rush and 4 guys that could get after it. And so the front is just as big a part of it as the back. And so those are, I don't know if that's a formula, so to speak, but that's kind of how we've done it. It just, and then if you got guys that are playing hard, that's the other component to it. If you got guys that are tentative, trying to figure out if they're doing the right thing, not sure, scared to make mistakes, probably not going to get those. But if you got guys that just want to go and cause disruption, which is what I intend to do, then, hopefully we can bring that here.
Are you already taking a hard look at the portal? We're already seeing these names come out. I mean, I guess this thing's not official right till the 2nd, but it already starts. It seems like it's earlier and earlier every year. I mean, you're going to have to do a lot of portal work, maybe even more than you're used to at Kansas State. How are you kind of loading up and making sure you're ready? And I'm sure you've had to tell the personnel folks, this is exactly kind of what I'm looking for. Have those conversations already started?
They began the minute I got here. Yeah, I was in with Aaron Hunt day 1, and we're working on it right now. What the public sees from the portal perspective and what's really going on in the portal are a little bit different, because so many things are happening with agents now, and they've been happening for months. And, there's GMs that are working with agents all the time on things. You always wonder how, wait a minute, the portal opens on January 2nd and this kid is committing on January 2nd. How did that happen? Well, it happened because it's been in the works since Halloween. And that's, so I don't know if we're ahead of it or behind it here, but we've definitely got ground to make up in a short period of time. And it's going to be a lot more pressure this year, because in the past it was always the fall portal window and then the spring portal window. So if you had needs still at the end, you could maybe supplement them in May. There's no May period this year. So it's kind of all or nothing. There's a lot of stress on these next 15 days or so coming up after the 2nd.
What are the traits for defensive linemen? Dave has said he wants to build this thing inside out, and maybe they haven't always taken that approach. When you're looking both for high school recruits and in the portal, are there like some, I mean, I'm sure there are different things you're open to, but like what has to stand out to you most when you're making some of those commitments and deciding? I'm sure production has to be a huge part of it.
High school and transfer recruiting is a little bit different, because when you're recruiting high school kids, you're recruiting with the idea that you're going to develop those guys. You're not really bringing those guys in. If they play right away, that's fantastic, but that's not the goal when you recruit them. You recruit a guy that's a big lump of clay, and you're hoping you can mold him along the way and make him a ball player. But when you're in the portal, you're recruiting guys that you need to come in and play now. And so it's a little bit 2 different schools. And I think the portal, there's a couple different schools of thought there. And if you look at Indiana and what they've done, their model is they're going to go take guys that have played at other places, and they don't care where. I mean, they might have played at James Madison, or they may have played somewhere else, but they played and they've been the alpha on some team somewhere, and they're going to bring those guys to the Big Ten and see what they do. And it's worked for them. The other school of thought is, you're taking this guy that was just a developmental guy at some other school that just hasn't, for whatever reason, developed. Maybe he didn't fit, or maybe he's just not that damn good. There's that possibility too. And so that's where the game comes in. And I think that when you're at a place like Baylor, it's a lot more attractive than bringing a guy to Manhattan, Kansas, for a number of reasons. But that makes life a little bit easier. A lot of these kids that were great high school football players in Texas that may have gone out of state, or maybe some of them looking to get back to Texas. That makes life a little bit easier too. So, but I think, to answer your original question on the D-line, I think, one of the things that we're looking for is length, and we're trying to get longer and bigger human beings in those spots. And there's a sliding scale the smaller you are, the juicier you need to be. That's an industry term, juicier. But you know, the smaller you are, you better make up for it with getting off the ball, with explosiveness, with you know, twitch and suddenness, so that you can be a disruptive football player. But I think you know, the priority for us right now at the front end of this thing is trying to find some guys that have some length and some guys that you know, as we change, you know, we're going to need some guys that can rush the passer, and that's a big deal too. But I think in the portal, the other thing is the off the field characteristics are just as important, because you bring the wrong guy in here, he can tear this place up, and you know, we cannot have that, you know. So it's doing as good of a job as we can, doing research, evaluating character, evaluating the fit, and that's maybe of more importance than you know, how disruptive he might be on the D line.
We hope you come bearing gifts. Maybe some of those K-State kids that you really like will, you know, perhaps want to try Waco out, huh?
We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are the biggest metrics in your mind? Obviously, we just covered one of them. Takeaways is so huge. But when you're looking at those metrics, third down defense, red zone, there have been areas where, and a lot of those you've been very successful in. Has that evolved in your mind over the years, or have you in your mind always, it's been like the same 4 or 5 that it never changes?
It doesn't really change. The recipe is the recipe, and ultimately the ultimate metric is points per game, right? And that's the final one. Is you just want to keep people off the scoreboard. You can play a bad day's worth of defense, but if you keep a guy or a team off the scoreboard, you know, you're giving your team a chance. So that's one. But you mentioned them. You know, third down conversion percentage, and that's becoming a little bit of more of a conversion down percentage, because more and more teams are going for it on fourth down nowadays. But you know, if you can get off the field and end series, that's a big thing. I mean, if you get 13 series a game roughly, and you get 17 third downs in a game, if you're you know, 13 for 17 on third downs, getting people off, you're probably going to have a heck of a day. Red zone touchdown percentage, as you mentioned, sometimes things happen and people drive, and that's okay. And we always used to tell our guys that field goals will never beat you, and they don't. You know, again, if you have 5 series that are awful, but you hold those guys to 5 field goals, that's 15 points. You're still in it, you know. And so that's been a big one. We track explosive plays. You know, I think that in college football, I don't know if there's enough offenses that are patient enough to just dink and dunk you all the way down the field, you know, without getting chunks. And so, you know, that would be the third one. You know, if you don't give up the passes over 20 or the runs over 15, that just chunk your way down the field, teams have a hard time putting things together and sustaining them without shooting themselves in the foot. And then the last one that you mentioned was turnover. So there's 5 metrics that we think are essential to winning football games.
Why is it so hard to stop the quarterback run these days? K-State was doing it with Colin Klein years ago. I mean, y'all, I think, ran into Ficklin too. Baylor ran into Ficklin, and I mean, that was a scary. He touched the ball 6 times. I don't think anybody ever brought him to the ground. It happened to Baylor several times. Why is it so effective, and what do you have to kind of do to hopefully change that at Baylor, giving up so much yardage to the opposing quarterbacks?
Yeah, it kind of changes how you look at defense a little bit, because when they aren't handing the ball to somebody, they're using that guy that they would hand the ball to as an extra blocker. And so there's certain types of defense where you just don't have anybody numbers wise accounting for that extra gap that extra guy creates, if that makes any sense. And so so when you get a skilled ball carrier like a Ficklin or a Devin Dampier or Colin Klein, that, you know, sometimes you get quarterbacks that can run, but they're scared to death to run. when you get guys that aren't afraid of running, and that's the design of what they're in for, that makes life puts a lot more stress on you as a defense to get those numbers balanced out somehow. Now you're taking somebody off the roof, so to speak, off of the deep part of the coverage, and you're forcing him to be part of the run fit. And when he's part of the run fit, now you're a little more susceptible to the play actions and some of that stuff. So at the end of the day, the short answer to your question is you got to win with numbers. And if they're going to add a number somehow, you have to add a number somehow. And that's so it's more just the design of the defense. There are some defenses that will carry that are going to be really good against quarterback run. And there'll be others that maybe you got to junk it up a little bit for them to be good against quarterback run. And so, being able to play in those worlds a little bit is the key to stopping the queue.
Has Dave basically told you, do your thing? Like, we like what you've done. Come here. This is your unit. Run this unit. Because obviously he's been a defensive coordinator and he has his approaches to things. How would you guys sort of meld that? And was that his message? Hey, I want you to come here and run your defense.
Yeah, it was. I don't know if I would have taken this opportunity if it wasn't. Because there's certain things that I believe in. And I certainly welcome his input because he is a very football smart guy. But I think that in his mind, he needs to step back and manage this team, and he was ready to do that. And I think he needed a fresh start for the guys on defense, and that's what I'm here to do. And so my approach to this thing is I'm just going to come in and blow it up from the beginning, and we're going to try to get guys. New terminology, new everything, and I don't want, I want a new set of expectations, and that's not throwing shade at anything that was done here before. I just think that if we're going to do this thing, we need to do it right, and that's what I intend to do.
All right. Do we have a nickname or anything for your defenses? Is there anything we should like?
That is fun. That is funny you say that because I was asking the guys in the building if they had anything, and they said they looked at me like I was crazy. I'm going to throw a few at you here, and you tell me what you think. Okay. Yeah. How about gangrene?
Yeah. I mean, now people would accuse you of taking that from the Jets. Or was that the New York Stock Exchange? Who was gangrene? There has been a gangrene in the NFL, but I do like it.
There was?
I do like it. Yes.
Okay. There was no real plan B. That was high on that one.
I was ready for more.
I'm open to suggestions.
I think gangrene. I mean, if you wanted to honor the Cowboys, and they're not playing very good defense right now, but the doomsday defense. Okay, that's the all-time great.
And I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
But I've had other things on my mind, but I'm when I over maybe Christmas Eve, I'll put my head to that a little bit. Having a cocktail.
You're gonna watch it at Baylor saying that out loud. What team did you grow up rooting for, by the way, professionally?
This is gonna sound funny. I'm a Wisconsin guy, so like in Wisconsin, it's blasphemy if you say anything other than the Packers. And I do like the Green Bay Packers, but I grew up and I was really, really young, but he was my absolute idol. I mean, I wrote his number on my T-shirts. I was a big Walter Payton guy. So I was a Chicago Bears guy. And I was, like I said, I was really, really, really young. But I just remember, they were in the Super Bowl, and that's probably one of the first Super Bowls I ever watched. And, I really was a Bears guy from the beginning. And then, there's about 25 years there where it was really terrible to be a Bears guy. And, it still kind of is. But that's, if I had to say, that was probably my club.
Well, then there's probably a Buddy Ryan tribute. I'll work on this for you. I know you got more important things to do, but I'll kind of work on the branding part of this. But the greatest Bear of all time is Mike Singletary, who was part of this.
He was one of my guys. I loved Mike Singletary, Wilbur Marshall. Yeah, that whole crew, man. What an unbelievable unit.
Well, anyway, it's exciting to talk to you. And that hearing you talk about that 4 down front, you've kind of gone back to, I mean, to me, maybe that'll help you. Like, you can blitz more out of that, or maybe it's a little more unpredictable with a blitz. Is that part of the thought process of going to that 4 down? I know you've done the 3 high safety, and y'all did it with a lot of success, but it just seems like something's going on in the Big 12 right now that's making you lean more on that 4 down look.
Well, I'll tell you something that I believe in, and this might again be a little football nerdy, but you can probably create more blitz paths, honestly, out of a 3 down front, because there's just so many more people off the ball that can do different things. But I'm a big believer in protection beats coverage, which is to say that if you can protect the quarterback, you could have the best coverage in the world. Eventually, that's going to break down, and you're going to get quarterbacks scrambling. And you mentioned quarterback designed runs, but one of the biggest reasons people get explosive plays is scrambles and extended plays that way. So protection beats coverage means it's great to have when you're 3 down, you can drop 8 people and you got all these great coverages and it's fantastic. But when the guy starts scrambling around, your coverage breaks down and bad things happen. What's cool about the 4 down front is when you're not blitzing, you're still rushing 4 guys, and you're still going to have 3 guys theoretically that have one-on-ones, and so you're going to get the ball out of the quarterback's hands when you're not bringing pressure. Now, when you are bringing pressure, it's the same as right. It's you're really getting after people, but when you're not, you can have a lot of 7-man drop things that are pretty good, and you can still be effective in affecting that quarterback.
I'm thinking about like the old run and shoot that Houston was running, and nobody could stop it. And then A&M finally, with a wrecking crew, tried to play like it dropped 8 back, and it finally gave them a little trouble. But man, it's interesting how all these things go in cycles, right? And the spread, and then you find an answer, and then the offensive guys have to go find another answer. But I would think it'll be fun to be with Spavital if he continues on as offensive coordinator and work against him. And I would imagine that'll really that'll be kind of entertaining.
Iron sharpens iron, and he's fantastic, by the way. Just a great individual, great human being. I enjoyed being around him for a few days here, and I hope that this relationship can be mutually beneficial to both of us.
All right, Joe, I'll help you out with all the best chicken fried steak places.
Yeah, man.
And we got seafood options here. We got a lot Waco cuisine. I mean, I don't know Manhattan. I'm sure Manhattan was fine, but we're going to be able to really expand your horizon here.
Yeah, that is a big on my to-do list is making sure I know exactly where to go and trying to, I'm a stress eater a little bit, right? So, I get in the end of the season and I'm not doing so well right now. So I got to kind of chill out for a couple months here to get my equilibrium back. And then I'm diving in with both feet to some of these restaurants.
Okay. Ask somebody what the gut pack is and they'll send you in the right direction. Okay. All right. Hey, Joe, thank you.
Anytime, man. I love what you do, man. I hear great things, and I'm excited to get on with you as often as I can.
Well, I really appreciate it. I love doing this. And there he goes, Joe Klanderman, the new defensive coordinator for the Baylor Bears.